Known as the missing link, the Rimba section of the freeway has long frustrated commuters, forcing them to drop back to 80 and 60 kilometres an hour. It's also been a haven for local police, keen to snare drivers exceeding the limit. Once the interchange is complete, the F3 will have a 110 kilometre speed limit from Wahroonga to Newcastle.
It'll get rid of some of the delays at the existing roundabout and also make things a lot safer, particularly for the movement of local traffic coming out of the Gosford area and joining the freeway here, or traffic leaving here and going to Gosford.
The project involves nearly 4 kilometres of 6-lane divided freeway, the major interchange and 4 sets of twin bridges. After more than 12 months of construction, the interchange is now on target to open by Christmas, providing the dry weather continues. The $56 million project has been a boost for local businesses and the local community.
In terms of jobs, probably about 70 people employed here at the moment. It varies through the length of the job.
And banking on good weather, the project is also likely to come in under budget. Jenny Crouch, NBN News.
Union leaders sat down this afternoon to map out their industrial campaign in the wake of the BHP announcement. The rolling campaign begins with a 24-hour national strike next Thursday, involving around 25,000 workers. That will be backed up in Newcastle on the 29th of May with a public rally to include the entire Newcastle community.
Well, the community is the one that's going to suffer out of all this, so I think it is essential. And as you heard in there, all the unions are quite aware of that, and that's why they've pledged their support.
The social campaign swings into action tonight with a community meeting at City Hall aimed at planning Newcastle's future minus the steelworks. Meanwhile, there's still no word on whether Prime Minister John Howard plans to visit the region.
I think it's a safe labour area, and Howard says, so what? I'll get no kudos going up there, so, why go there? But he may come here, he may, so we sincerely hope he does, because we think he should evaluate the position and listen to us and hear what we've got to put forward to him.
Mr Howard is yet to commit $10 million of federal government money to the Hunter Advantage Fund, requested by Premier Bob Carr in the state budget. Blake Doyle, NBN News. Judging by the poor turnout at last night's meeting, Newcastle may have admitted defeat over BHP's plans to end steelmaking in the city. It was a chance for little Australians to take on the big Australian, however fewer than 200 people showed up.
I wish there'd have been more people there, but given the fact that we had about 6 days to organise it, I think we did well.
For the first time, BHP was given the chance to explain its decision to the community.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're in a fish and chip shop or a steel business. If you can't make a profit, you don't stay in business.
Union leaders, though, weren't hearing of it.
If you have a plant that makes $100 million turnover a year in cash and you can't make a profit out of it, what do? You get rid of the people who run it and bring in a manager or management team that can make profits out of it.
A notable absentee from the meeting was Federal Industry Minister John Moore, who attended a black tie function for the opening of the Melbourne Casino. His opposition counterpart Simon Crean did attend, advocating a new steel plan to rescue the ailing industry and new manufacturing industries for the city.
There's a future for steel and there's a future for other industries. What you've got to do is to secure the future of the steel industry and at the same time build and encourage other industries to come here.
That view is backed up by business leaders keen to see a new image for Newcastle.
Let's shed that image, move on and look at high-tech parks.
The business community is also downplaying concerns it hasn't backed the plight of the 2,500 workers facing the axe.
We have a very big concern about trying to find new opportunities for those people who will be unemployed. And we have taken action, and we're taking action still, and we are talking to state and federal government people about it.
25,000 workers will kick off a national campaign of rolling 24-hour strikes next Thursday. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
The Knights said they had no choice but to call off yesterday's game. Bad weather left conditions unsuitable for players and fans alike. The club won't know the cost of the decision until the match is finally held, but for other organisations, it's hit the hip pockets straight away. P&O Catering is the hardest hit. Wages and food spoilage were lost by the club's decision to postpone, and although they won't confirm the exact cost, they do say it was a considerable sum of money and add it was their worst straight loss on a game. The ARL is yet to confirm when the match will be played. The probable outcome, a game during the split round in early July.
The Muswellbrook community is both stunned and outraged today after the brutal bashing of two priests at the St James Catholic Church.
We are in shock, and we can say that, as I've already said, we're a quite rural community. It's not a common occurrence here, and we wonder what will occur in the future.
Having finished the Sunday evening Mass, 67-year-old Father George Nugent and his assistant, 36-year-old Deacon James Lunn, were walking from the church to the presbytery when the attack came. Hiding here in the bushes, the two bandits pounced on the priests, viciously attacking them with baseball bats, all for a few dollars from the collection plate. Father Nugent almost lost an ear, suffering cuts and bruising to his head. Deacon Lunn was less fortunate, the bandits breaking his left arm. Taken to Muswellbrook District Hospital, the deacon's fracture will require surgery. The cowardly attack on two people devoted to helping others has left the community dumbfounded.
Had a request been made by the offenders who obviously had the upper hand, the money would have been handed over without the need for the violence to occur.
The victims are lovely gentlemen. They're people who are admired and respected throughout the community.
The attackers, described as tall with thin builds, were wearing balaclavas and dark clothing at the time. Police are appealing to the public for information. Simone Cobb, NBN News.
She's a 5-year-old and seems to be getting only better. Last week, Sweet Consort rocked her opposition to win the Tamworth Cup. A trip to Brisbane is now in the offing. But it's not just another story of a horse showing promise, instead a remarkable tale of determination. Sweet Consort's career was almost ruined in December 1995. She was hit by a car and spent a year recovering.
We put a lot of work into the mare. She had a bad accident about 14 months ago, and they said she'd never race again. So, we're very pleased that she's come good.
It'd be nice to know what she could have done if she didn't miss those 12 months. But on the other hand, she may not have come back at all, and thanks to Lee's care and devotion, she is back.
And what a comeback, Tamworth on Friday in the Cup. Sweet victory indeed for the stable. It was back-to-back Cup wins. The reputation is starting to build.
They seem to like me up that way, although we do seem to drag a bit of prize money out. One day we'll probably get beat and have to leave it behind, but oh well. You just got to have the horse, I think, and the horse going right on the right time, and we were lucky to have one.
Sweet Consort was weighted out of a start in the dark dual quality at Scone on Friday. She'll head north in a fortnight.
Yeah, she's a great little horse. I think she's probably the best horse I've got at the moment in work. I think there's bigger, better things to come of her.
In the fast-paced, high-tech 90s, people deal with stress on a daily basis. To help us better understand this sometimes crippling and unhealthy state of being, Newcastle University has embarked on an historic research project.
Because if we understand how it occurs, then we've got a better chance of understanding how you can manage it.
By using state-of-the-art equipment like this recently acquired mass spectrometer, researchers can, for the first time, measure an enzyme which produces adrenaline, the stress drug. This information will help them understand the mechanisms of stress and hopefully be used to find ways of alleviating it. The project is a joint venture between a number of faculties such as biomedical sciences and chemistry. Professor Dunkley says by resource sharing, the university is helping to strengthen its reputation as a leader in research.
And we want to continue that sort of advantage that Newcastle has over other universities and maintain the research strength of the town. And one way of doing that is to work cooperatively between members of different faculties within the university.
Simone Cobb, NBN News.
Report. The chilling wail of a siren. An ambulance races against time. And somewhere, someone faces a battle between life and death. And which way that battle swings could depend on the skill of the paramedics and the specialised equipment they carry in their intensive care unit. The paramedic service is modelled on one which operates in Los Angeles, and in Newcastle, 11 paramedics have now undergone training which takes at least 6 months. But it's at accidents like this, where a man is trapped beneath a heavy forklift truck, that training becomes so valuable. Paramedics Alan Playford and Alan Reid take up the story.
In an accident such as this one, is that parts of the body that are compressed under great weights develop toxins rapidly. Upon the sudden release of the patient, they can develop a syndrome called hyperkalemia, and this involves a sudden rush of these toxins back into the body, which have a depressing effect upon the heart.
We set up a Hemaxol infusion plasma expander on a TKVO at a very slow drip rate, knowing that once the weight was lifted that the person would, in all probabilities, the BP would go down and we would be able to infuse quite rapidly. And we also set up a 8.4% sodium bicarb in case of this hyperkalemia appearing on our monitor unit, which we do monitor with in cases of compression. We split the fractured limbs, which were compound. Approximately 20 minutes later, on placing the patient in the vehicle, we did notice all of a sudden this hyperkalemia did come up on the monitor screen, and we immediately infused 100 mils of 8.4% sodium bicarb, which within 4 minutes did nullify the effects of hyperkalemia, which was to the patient's definite benefit.
It's not just accidents that keep the paramedics busy, and in fact it could be an emergency that occurs right in the home, something like a cardiac condition. But in every case, the aim is to stabilise the patient on the spot, and the unit is crammed with specialised equipment that makes this possible.
Well, in the event of an arrest situation, Jim, or an arrhythmia, which is an abnormality, we place these leads here upon the patient's chest, and to signify what's taking place. In the event of an arrest situation, we can shock the heart to attempt to restart.
Do you think you've actually saved people using
Oh,
that
yes,
device?
most certainly, Jim. It's a very good piece of equipment indeed.
Thank you for being a
the car you lack. I'd surely buy you a Cadillac. Whatever you need, any time of the day or night. I'm not ashamed to say, I hope it always will stay this way. My hat is off, won't you stand up and take a bow? And when we both get older, with walking canes and hair of grey, have no fear, even though it's hard to hear. I will stand real close and say thank you for being a friend. I wanna thank you. Thank you for being a friend. I wanna thank you. Thank you.
We'd rather play bingo with Casino Domingo, or sit on a terrace in a spa with Carreras. Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, Joe Cocker, they'll all be there.
All the stars.
We're just a support act, that's all we are.
Hard work for head coach Sean Dennis and his Chargers has certainly paid off this season. The Falcons have a respectable 2-2 record. Also impressive is the side's enviable reputation as the NBL's sharpshooters. In the 4 games so far this season, the Falcons boast a 50% record from the court and 76% from the free throw line.
Team is constantly, you look down, you hear the bounce of the ball on the court when I'm in my office, and you look down, there's somebody down there doing some extra shooting, and and that's paying dividends, and you can see by our percentages.
The North Melbourne Giants, as always, are proving tough customers. Captain Butch Hayes is confident.
North Melbourne are always very tough at home, and the fact that we've got to travel back the next morning and play a home game here against the Illawarra Hawks will also be a tough task, but I think the boys are ready for it.
The Falcons return home Sunday for a bout with the Illawarra Hawks. In their last meeting, the Falcons outshined the Hawks 112-96.
And the last time we had a layoff, we come out and beat Illawarra by 16, so that'd be nice to repeat that. But
tip-off on Sunday is at 6 p.m. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
The Samaritans' new Friendship House at Broadmeadow brings together a number of its services under one roof. At present, the Samaritans offer emergency relief to 2,000 people a month in the Hunter Valley and on the Central Coast. In the wake of Tuesday's federal budget, the organisation is predicting that figure will grow.
The more the government cuts, the more the Samaritans do.
The centre boasts a new kind of op shop from the norm. Wild Wares and Wares aims to capture the top end of the second-hand clothes market. The Emergency Relief Centre will operate as normal, while the Life After Prison project, which till now has been run by 3 churches, will be administered solely by the Samaritans.
It just takes one act of love, of acceptance to get them back.
Phil Hind, NBN News.
In a town renowned for its long association with the horse, there's no lack of locals and visitors happy to see the legendary stock horses go through their paces. Flag racing is a familiar feature along with hacking, where working horses and their riders show discipline and training. A cut above again is a demonstration in dressage, while barrel racing adds an exciting element to the show. As well as the Scone Cup Carnival throughout today and tomorrow, festival events including fun runs and the Gundy Gala continue on Sunday.
Alan Henry Hall was gunned down on his Central Coast property on June 29, 1988. Last year, 3 men were arrested for the murder, including boxing trainer Cess Waters and his son, former heavyweight boxing champion Dean Waters. 33-year-old Damon Cooper was today sentenced to a minimum of 12 years jail for his part in Hall's death after a jury found he had acted with diminished responsibility. In sentencing, Mr Justice Peter Newman said, "I regard his criminality to be at the highest end of the scale." Cooper received an additional 3 years after pleading guilty to maliciously damaging Mr Hall's house by fire 4 months earlier. Cooper's alleged accomplice, Dean Waters, is expected to face trial in July, while Cess Waters died of a heart attack last month. And a 66-year-old Central Coast pensioner has been found guilty of the shooting of a woman on the Central Coast in May last year. Arthur Edward Whitmore shot 53-year-old Colleen Edith Sharp in the head with a .25 calibre pistol in his Point Clare flat and will be sentenced in Sydney next Friday.
State Opposition Leader Peter Collins issued this statement on the impact of the poker machine tax rise. In it, he claimed the loss of revenue would force the 40-year-old Cardiff Workers Club to shut its doors with the loss of 190 jobs. The club says the Liberal leader got it wrong.
I don't see any real job losses at all. I don't see the club anywhere near closing, and it's just a massive exaggeration and a misunderstanding.
A spokesperson for Mr Collins says the press statement was based on the club's own response to a survey on the impact of the tax. The gaming tax will rise more than 5% to 30% on clubs which earn more than $1 million a year from the pokies. While the opposition painted a bleak picture for the club, it reserves its anger for the Carr government for increasing the tax. The club says its profits will be slashed an estimated $500,000, forcing it to cut back on some services.
Poker machines subsidise the rest of the club. They subsidise the cheaper drinks, cheaper meals, donations. They subsidise entertainment. Pretty much everything comes from the poker machines.
The concerns of the Cardiff Workers Club are echoed by most service clubs throughout the state. Phil Hind, NBN News.
It was a nightmare start to the day for the 24-year-old East Maitland woman.
The train's come in and she hasn't realised that it was leaving. The doors have been shut, and then she's run to the train, tripped and fallen down between the train and the platform.
Pinned under the train, the woman was dragged along the tracks. Emergency services arrived within minutes, their rescue hampered by the cramped conditions. An hour and a half later, the woman was released and then flown to John Hunter Hospital on board the Westpac rescue helicopter, where she's reported to be in a serious condition with lower leg injuries. Police say the woman's lucky her injuries weren't worse.
The train had dragged her probably 15 metres. I'd say due to her size, she's escaped serious injury.
And 2 men and a woman were injured in this head-on collision on a bend of McDonald's Road at Pecolban. The impact shredded the front off the Nissan Urvan, seriously injuring a 58-year-old woman and a 41-year-old man from Cessnock. The 25-year-old driver of the four-wheel drive was also seriously injured. All 3 are recovering in John Hunter Hospital.
if there had have been smoke alarms in there, this incident may not have occurred.
Another day, another politician coming to Newcastle offering solutions to the BHP closure. This time, Employment Minister Amanda Vanstone with a $2 million jobs package. $1.2 million will go towards the new enterprise incentive scheme to create 100 small businesses across the Hunter. Senator Vanstone rejects suggestions steelworkers don't fit the small business mould.
It's simply not true that everybody who runs a business is a white-collar person with a tie who did a PhD in science at a nearby university. There's a very wide mix of people that very, very successfully set up their own businesses.
There's also $400,000 to upgrade the skills of those steel workers who will lose their jobs to meet skills shortages in the metals industry, and another $500,000 for a business development centre in Cessnock.
There is some real benefit in upgrading existing workers' skills. By upgrading the skills of existing workers, you make the current business more viable, and a more viable business is more likely to take on new people.
Shadow Industry Minister Simon Crean says the package is proof that the government has given up on Newcastle as a steel centre for Australia.
We're not gambling with Newcastle's future. We're prepared to develop an action plan to secure that future.
He says workers want real jobs and not retraining schemes. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Singleton Council, the federal government and the opposition are all embroiled in a struggle for power. The Shire was to get its first power station in June, but the community has been left in the dark over the future of the $200 million Red Bank project since the government decided to change the rules.
We're looking forward for this project for some time, and I'm quite upset that government have seen this to happen at this particular time when they were ready to commence in June this year.
The project was to receive funds from an infrastructure assistance scheme, which the Coalition now wants to scrap. Visiting Singleton Council today, Shadow Industry Minister Simon Crean says the government has put the entire project at risk.
They've frozen the infrastructure bonds for the past 12 months, and the budget has given no more certainty. The budget has limited the amount of money available and also limited the projects which can qualify to just road and rail.
But National Party Senator Sandy McDonald denies the federal budget is stopping Red Bank from going ahead. He says the project is still eligible for assistance because its application was submitted before the goalposts were changed.
It's all very well for Sandy McDonald to say it might go ahead. We don't want maybes, we want firm action.
The project would employ 200 people during construction and create another 50 full-time jobs when operational. Mr Crean says the Labor Party will try to block the bill that proposes to abolish the funding scheme in the Senate. Simone Cobb, NBN News. They roam the rugged wilderness of the Great Dividing Range, killing sheep and native animals for food and sport. Wild dogs and dingoes have become a major problem for graziers in the Upper Hunter and Northwest areas.
They rip the kidneys out of them or tear them apart on the shoulders or the back legs. And it's got to the stage where people are often thinking about getting out of sheep production because of the dog predation.
In conjunction with farmers in New South Wales Agriculture, the Rural Lands Protection Board is conducting a major aerial baiting program this week to control the wild dog problem. Dropped from a helicopter along rough and mountainous country, the poisoned meat is relatively harmless to native animals.
This is designed to kill a dog, and it will kill fox and also kill a feral cat.
The exercise is the biggest feral animal eradication program in the country, 300 people covering terrain from Singleton to Tenterfield, to stop domestic dogs from joining wild packs, as well as ensuring they don't fall victim to the baits. Owners are urged to be more responsible.
Anyone should have their dog under control at all times. It's as simple as that.
Simone Cobb, NBN News.
Paul Deshert was preparing for deliveries just after 5 o'clock this morning when he was confronted by a man armed with a Sonoff .22 calibre rifle. He was made to lie face down on the storeroom floor while a second man bound his wrists and ankles with packing tape. One of the robbers then removed the keys to the safe from the newsagent's pocket. They emptied the safe of cash and also made off with 20 cartons of cigarettes, but not before gagging Mr. Deshert and turning out the lights in the shop. He eventually managed to free himself unharmed and rang police. One of the men is described as tall, of solid build, fair skin and light brown hair. The second robber is not described. Anyone with information is asked to contact Toronto detectives. Phil Hind, NBN News.